What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 85 of Facts and Stats. Here with me, I have a guest. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, then we'll go ahead and kick this off.
Yeah, what up, bro? Swiper Cam. Probably heard about me on Twitter. Probably heard about me on YouTube. One of the best basketball NFL accounts there is. Y'all already know what time it is. It's great to see you, man. Shout out to Ev. Shout out to Facts and Stats, man. That's my dog. H Boom Coon, boy. Got the
Yes,
best
sir.
faces on Twitter, my bro.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Those that's watching this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And then we're going to dive into some basketball and potentially some NFL talks as well. You heard Swiper say Twitter Spaces. Don't forget to follow the Twitter page as well. It's at Facts and Stats underscore. I do live Twitter Spaces every day at 11 a.m. discussing various topics. So make sure y'all check that out. Swiper, again, just go ahead. Tell the people a little bit about yourself, man. What do you do on a day-to-day basis as far as, in the sports world?
Yeah, man. I started off with the independent content creator. Started my platform December 23rd, 2020. Man, just had a dream, had a vision to start talking about the NBA and the NFL. And, basically, just kind of started from there. I just kind of put my head down and started grinding and started putting takes out on social media and started making videos like crazy. And then I've just grown ever since. And so now, man, I make content professionally, social media. I also work with Mile High Sports now, man, but mostly, still doing everything on my own. Um, Got an opportunity to interview a lot of people in the game, a lot of analysts, a lot of folks that have been doing the work for a long time, but just slowly but surely building credibility and, trying to become one of the premier voices in the sports content space. So just like you, just a
Yeah,
daily grind, just trying to
yeah.
establish myself.
No, that's fire, and I appreciate that. What's some advice that you'll give somebody that may watch this video that may be trying to become a content creator or put their stuff out there in the sports world as well?
Well, I'm gonna tell you the Ev secret that you need to follow, bro. Uh, Definitely want to put hot takes out there like CJ McCollum, the top 15 scorer in the NBA. The more attention you can get, and I think a lot of this, man, I tell people all the time, like in real professional life and not, you know, you got to find a need around you, find what you're passionate about, and if you're committed to something and you're passionate about something, and then you create an environment that people want to be a part of, like if people feel like they're heard, they feel like they're respected, they feel like their opinions matter, and they feel like you sincerely care about the subject you're talking about, people will always tie into that. And that could be about fashion, that could be about movies and film, that could be about sports, that could be about politics, about faith, whatever else it is. So if you definitely want to start your own platform, whatever it is you're passionate about, try to create a culture that allows for everybody to have a seat at the table. Because you'll find that it's easier to build a we and a community than it is to build something that just solely depends on you
Yeah.
getting it done. So I really tried to focus on that for
No,
sure.
that's well said. Well said. Well said, Swiper. So again, today we're gonna have some NBA conversations. Obviously, I know you're a super Denver Nuggets fan. That's pretty much how I heard about you. And then you also came into my spaces and you be in my Twitter spaces every day for the most part. So we're gonna go ahead and start it off with just before we get into some Nuggets talk, just discussing what's going on around the NBA, what's been taking place this entire season. Any surprises to you as far as the NBA season and what's been going on all the way up until March 23rd so far?
Yeah, I mean, to start the season, I got the Eastern Conference right. I predicted there was going to be the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Sixers to be the top three seeds, and so far I've got it completely right 100%. And then after that, I won't even say I got like Cleveland and I got the Heat. So I even think for the most part I've been right. What are the Heat right now in the
We're the
East?
seven seed.
Who's ahead of y'all?
The Nets and the Knicks.
Yeah, that's right. So I was wrong on the Knicks. I was right on the Nets. I had the Nets up there. I think I had them. Actually, I had them at 4. Had Cleveland at 5. Had the Heat at 6. But the West, I had the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Clippers. And right now, only the Nuggets is the one putting in the work in the regular season. I was completely out on the Kings. I was all the way wrong. Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox and Demontis Sabonis. Both of them are having all NBA caliber
Yeah, for
seasons.
sure, for sure.
I was wrong about the Warriors. They can't win a road game for real. They
Yeah,
basically the Houston Rockets on the road. Um, I was right about the MVP discussion. I was wrong on rookie of the year might end up being Jaylen Williams, man, from
yeah.
OKC.
Super late
So I
picks.
had
Yeah,
Paulo. Yeah, I had Paulo coming into the season. Six man, I had Jordan Poole. That's not happening. He's been garbage. Who else has been? I think most improved player. I think I might have had like Desmond Desmond Bain or something like that. But even him, had injury concerns, all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So it's been kind of hit or miss. But I've been right about a few things so far.
Okay. Yeah, man. For me, coming into the season, I did think the Heat were going to be a top four seed. I did also think they were going to add a power forward or a backup center with the loss of PJ Tucker. And I thought Oladipo, who didn't start the season, I thought he was going to be healthy coming into the season. Unfortunately, he wasn't. Not a problem. But the way they're playing right now, they're playing good basketball as a late, or particular Jimmy Butler. He turned the switch, and I feel like he needed to turn that switch, especially in the pressure that he said about 2 weeks ago. Like he's tired of losing straight up. And I think he's displaying that on a night-to-night basis. As far as the West, I was expecting big things out of the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Clippers, not the Lakers, and they're right where I had them at the play-in anyway. Although they did outshape or turn their whole entire roster around with the additions of D'Lo and Vando and Rui and Malik and so forth. So credit to them for that. But man, this season overall, what's up? As far as like hot topics right now, that I want to sort of kind of speak to you about. Obviously, Ja Morant and the whole situation where he was going on over the past couple of weeks with the strip club and so forth. I want to get your thoughts on that, and then after that, this week actually, Jaylen Brown, an article came out on Jaylen Brown and his thoughts of his future with Boston Celtics and so forth. So those are the two first things I want to discuss with you before we sort of kind of dive into a particular team or situations around the NBA. So you can start with Ja Morant. How did you feel about that whole thing of him flashing a weapon and so forth in the strip club and how he's carrying himself overall?
Yeah, I think Ja has had a string of stories that have come out all in the last several months, and then in the last few weeks, whether it be a dispute with a 17-year-old or his
Yeah,
friends pointing a laser at a team bus, I think for the Pacers,
yeah,
there's just too much smoke. And I think a lot of this came down to, Ja put himself in a situation that he didn't want to be in or didn't need to be in. And, whether it just be, you flexing for the crowd and for all your IG followers and all that. And so I think Ja definitely needed an opportunity to sit down and reevaluate his choices. But I think Ja's 23 years old. So, I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? You got a max contract. You're the best player on your roster. You're one of the premier faces of the NBA. You got everything being handed to you and everything right in front of you. So if you don't have a community of people and leaders around you that are able to really speak to you, whether they're trying to and you're not listening, or whether they're just not available, if you don't have good structure, it's kind of hard to make good decisions consistently. So I'm really hoping and praying, obviously, that Ja continues to grow into a well-rounded man. Because obviously he's a father. I know he cares about his community, he cares about his people. And so I think a lot of this comes down to just maturing
yeah,
and becoming more emotionally healthy as well. But again, he said himself that he suffers from some anxiety and that he had a lot of anxiety before games. And so, maybe he was finding ways to cope with that, doing other things that he should or should not have been doing. But, again, I just hope the best for him. You hope the best for especially any player, any young black player, especially, you want to see them thrive best they can. So hopefully this little 8-game suspension he had was more than enough. The counseling that he's getting will continue to get will help him. And then I hope that his life takes off and that, the very best of everything he could have hoped for and more is right in front of him for sure.
nah, for sure, and I agree with everything you just said. So I really don't have too much to add on to that. I just know it's going to be one of the type of situations. Again, 23-year-old. When he looks back at his career, when he hits the 30s, that's when he's sort of kind of like, damn, this went by pretty fast. He's gonna be like, what was I thinking at that time, or I can't believe I was carrying myself in that type of way. As far as I don't think I ever seen a player, not alone, go to the strip club. Well, I have seen a player go to the strip club photos, but flashing a weapon inside the strip club on Instagram or on social media, I haven't seen anything like that. And he did take accountability for that. And then also love a comment that he said, actually about 2 days ago, after practice on Tuesday. Reporter asked him, "So I'm not at your back. Are you going to be featuring yourselves on Instagram lives and Twitter and things like that?" He said, "No, not at all. He's not going to be on social media at all." So he did reactivate his pages, but he did make sure to emphasize that he's not going to be on Instagram lives like he used to be or tweeting, going at people and things like that. So I agree with everything that you said as far as Ja Morant. Wishing him and the Grizzlies the best home record in the NBA. Been one of the top 2, 3 teams in the Western Conference all season long. We're going to circle right there on the Grizzlies really quickly, though. How are you feeling about them and potentially making a deep playoff run compared to the other Western Conference teams, with your team included?
Yeah, I think even the most casual NBA fans know that the Grizzlies have half-court offensive issues. So um, they're going to be really, really, really focused in having to make sure they're finding ways to optimize what they're doing outside of running the transition. And teams are going to be putting a lot of drop coverage on Ja Morant. They're going to expect Ja Morant to hit these mid-range shots, something that he's not great at. Keep him out of that floater range and really contest when he does try that. Dylan Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr. and the other players on the perimeter, even your Tillmans and your Tyus Jones and your Desmond Baines. I mean, they're all going to have to hit shots at a pretty high level. I think the problem is that I don't know if their ceiling is high enough to be able to make a deep playoff run in the Western Conference. Just because even though they're the best defense in the West, they're going to be so limited offensively in what they're able to do. And Ja, he could go off every game, but that still don't mean that you got enough to get it done. Because if you take away your best action, which is getting to the rim, and at least we can contain you on that and force you to be localized, stationary shooters. Outside of Luke Kennard, you really don't have a consistent threat. And then Luke on the other end is a little bit of a liability as well. So you can find a way to put him in mismatches. So man, versus the Nuggets, the Suns, the Warriors, and the Clippers, and even the Kings, there's a lot of different options that they can throw at you offensively, and then defensively, there's some things they can do to try to put you in a little bit of ward as well. So they could definitely still, make the conference finals if they get a good enough matchup. But even versus like the Mavericks, there's still going to be a lot of stuff they have to overcome to get there.
Okay, I completely agree with that. I recorded with NMZ. I'm pretty sure you know who that is. Shout out to NMZ some months ago, and surprisingly, probably 2 months ago, we both had the Grizzlies making the finals. Now at that time, I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm pretty sure they were playing fantastic or superb basketball at that time, and they did start the season pretty well. They just went on a losing streak, I think, in January, or maybe it had been February, to where they are now. But all in all, their record is still good. And they're still playing, good basketball as a team. And Jaren Jackson, when Ja Morant was on that 8-game suspension, he did take his offensive game to another level. So I think if Bane or Jaren do that, alongside of what we know Ja is going to do on a night-to-night basis, like you were just emphasizing or speaking on, yeah, man, they could potentially do something. I'm not saying this year, but I would expect them to be year in and year out a Western Conference, team in the future, especially if they add somebody to their roster as well. We all know I think they were linked to, or they tried to get Bridges or OG at the trade deadline. If they would have added a talent like that, that would have been very, very scary. But that's that on the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, again, you are the biggest Nuggets fan that I know easily, biggest Jokic fan that I know easily. And a lot is going on around him and the MVP award, or just the Nuggets in general. And I've been telling you on Spaces, I've been watching a lot of you guys' games recently. And I've been seeing a lot of defensive issues or mishaps, and seeing where certain teams, especially in the playoffs, can attack you guys. You're sitting at 49-24. You've been the number one seed, I think, pretty much 90% of the season in the Western Conference. I think you have the third best record in the NBA, or maybe fourth, with the Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers ahead, probably by a game or so, for the last two teams. For the Celtics and Sixers. Let's talk Denver Nuggets basketball real quick, man. For your Denver Nuggets supporters, or people that may watch this episode, how are you feeling about the Nuggets as of right now? I know they're your finals pick, but any worries defensively? Any worries going into the playoffs, which start in about 2 weeks, and so forth?
That's crazy. Yeah. I think whenever you're talking about a Jokic anchored defense, rim protection, foot speed, all that stuff is going to always be an issue. So how do you protect him? And protect the back line of your defense is always going to be the question. Yeah, absolutely. There are things to be concerned about. The Denver Nuggets, again, I brought this up multiple times on my platform that, for about a 3-month period, they were a top 6 defense in the NBA, but that's because they were keeping people from getting to the rim consistently, and they were playing good defense on the 3-point line. So they want you to take really tough contested mid-range shots, and try to keep you in that little 16 to 32-foot area, which is the most difficult shot in basketball, and get you in some ISO-heavy situations where you got to really hit a jump shot over somebody. So they definitely took a slide. Basically they beat the Memphis Grizzlies by 12 points on a Friday, March 3rd. And then from March 3rd to March 16th, they went 2-5 5, I want to say, in their schedule. They've basically lost 4 straight games as well, barely beat the Toronto Raptors in Denver. And on top of that, they had the worst defense in the NBA over the course of that stretch, and their offense wasn't good either. So, I've talked about and I've shared Michael Malone's quotes before that he said that they think they just started coasting, even though he didn't want them to do that. They obviously did, because if you got a 7-game lead over the 2 seed, you're bound to have a human error. And I think they just felt like, look, man, we got such a big lead that it really doesn't matter how we play the next few games, bro. I mean, they were losing to Spurs and like the bad teams. They were in dog fights with the Detroit Pistons with no Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. They're going to have to fortify on defense. I think the thing that I think I'm most comfortable with, though, is that they had a 2-week slump, since the beginning of December, and folks were already like out on them and out on obviously Jokic and the MVP conversation. And so I just think it's funny how, fast people switch. But I think people they genuinely just don't believe in the Nuggets because the Nuggets have never been a premier winning franchise. They've never been to a final. So you put that with bad defensive versatility for a lot of people next to Jokic, who's not a rim protector, and then you put him next to Jamal and Porter and AG. I think a lot of people are just waiting for them to fail because the franchise and the player haven't been there yet. So everything's in front of them, but you got a lot to prove, at least to everybody else, but more so maybe to yourself.
All right, so I know I heard you, and well said. I know I heard you say one time in my spaces, uh, something you said the other day about Byron made a comment about best team or best depth. I think to me there is some concerns as far as bench production. I know you guys' bench is highlighted by Bruce, Reggie, Thomas, Jeff, and so forth. Is there any concerns for you as far as that? Since the addition of Reggie Jackson, I don't really think he's been playing too well. I think Thomas Bryant had a good couple of games. I don't know how he's faring as of late. Any concerns as far as the bench production in the playoffs? And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing, they're going to have to lean heavy defense. Like, I wouldn't even be worried about scoring points because Thomas can play situationally. I wouldn't want Reggie to play. And I think
Oh, okay.
in the playoffs, what I would do, I would run a lineup of Bruce Brown, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Christian Brown with Blocko Chanchar and Jeff Green and Zeke Naji. And that would be my 5-man bench unit.
Okay.
And then you can even put in Aaron Gordon there if you want. And if you want to space the floor and you want to put Michael Porter Jr. in at the 4, because the whole thing with them is they need to be able to get stops. So if they have 5 defenders on the court and you can't score, I'm perfectly fine with that because they're not going to score either unless they're in transition. So what that comes down to then is, can the starters play well enough at in the first quarter, closing out the end of the first quarter, and then through the beginning of the third quarter? Can you play well enough in those 2 stints where you got like an 8-point lead, and that way the bench can stabilize? Or if they lose their minutes, they're not losing them to where you're coming back into the game down 8, 10, 12 points in the playoffs. Now, we've already seen the Nuggets do that historically, but I think championship teams, you want your bench to be able to stabilize for the starters. And I think that should be their goal. It shouldn't be to win their minutes. It should be, how do we prevent the bench from losing their minutes to such a degree that now the starters have to work overtime to get you back in the game.
Okay, hold on one second. Hold on one second. All right, and I agree with everything that you just said. So appreciate you for breaking down or speaking on the Nuggets very quickly. Another hot topic that I want you to talk about, and obviously, me personally, I do agree with you on this one. I do think things have changed since Kendrick Perkins came out and said what he said as far as the MVP and the race and things like that. I'll let you dive into that. I mean, B obviously been doing what he's been doing all year, pretty much back to back years. Averaging 30 again for a center, and this time he's not even just doing 30; he's doing 33 now. 65% true shooting, 10 rebounds per game, and obviously anchoring the Six to be one of the best teams in the league. And credit to James Harden, not just giving it Embiid. He now overtook the favorite. You can check all betting platforms. You can check the NBA MVP ladder as the favorite to be MVP. All year been saying Jokic should be the MVP and is going to win the MVP. He's been averaging a triple double for the most majority of the season. How are you feeling about this MVP race? And truly be honest to break it down, man. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been, interesting year because basically for 3 months, I mean, Jokic, I track this stuff every week just for people can part of my content. Jokic from December 6th until last week which was I think that was the 17th. From December 6th to the 17th, I believe, he was number one on the NBA.com MVP ladder. But what had happened was after Kendrick Perkins made those stat padding comments and then, the Dirk, Nash, Jokic comments,
Right.
he basically flipped in a 14-day period from consensus overwhelming number one, the straw poll, 77 first place votes, Embiid wasn't even second, to now he's dropped to 2+ odds on the betting odds.
Yeah.
And a lot of this happened because Embiid's been playing incredible to start March. But on the other side of this, the Denver Nuggets went 2-5, and they went from the number one seed in the West to the number one seed in the West. And then, Jokic, basically like bad defense, all kind of stuff. So it's funny, I've said this consistently. The numbers in the traditional MVP metrics still scream Jokic pretty considerably. But I think the narrative has gotten so strong for Embiid, and you listen to Nick Wright, and you listen to even Tim Legler and some other people, and they say, well, Embiid, Giannis has two, Jokic has two, Embiid doesn't have one. It might just be his turn. And I can't stand that language because in the NBA, bro, this is not like we're out in school and everybody gets a ribbon, bro. Like, it's a meritocracy. You got to earn it. And the facts are the facts, bro. And I've been consistent on this, man. Like, if all three of y'all are at the top of your conference and the only two people are at number one seeds are Giannis and Jokic, and Embiid is behind Giannis, and he's only played, I think, 2 more games than Giannis this year, but somehow, that conversation could wash. And again, Embiid's averaging 33, 10, and 4 on 65% true shooting. It's been incredible. And they've had the number one offense in the NBA for 3 months. But their defense, though, has slid, and they haven't been a top 10 defense over the last 3 months. But offensively, they've been crazy. But I'm going to tell you what, Ev, what it's going to come down to. And again, it's dumb. But this weekend, Jokic plays Giannis on Saturday, and then Jokic plays Embiid on Monday, and then Embiid plays Giannis. I think that next game or next couple of games after that, the whole conversation is, narrative be dang, is that it's going to come down to them games. So, unfortunately, that's kind of where we are in the NBA. And I think it started with Kendrick Perkins, but I think Embiid has been incredible. He did have 47, 18, and 5 versus Jokic on January 28th, and Jokic lost. It's that simple. And that ends up mattering in the MVP conversation. But you better believe that if they end up losing that game, meaning the 76ers, then we're going to come right back to around where we are. Well, the numbers are here and here. Jokic did beat him the end of the season. So, yeah, it's going to get nasty. The timeline's been bad. It's going to get nasty.
Yeah, I can see that happening. And I agree with you.
Process coming up in there.
It's going to be a crazy race, to be honest with you, to see how that comes down. Embiid, credit to what you just said. I think he's coming up minus yesterday's performance where he didn't play the second half. 11 or 12 straight games, scoring 30 or more. I think he broke a record for Philadelphia. 10 or 11, one of them. I think he broke a record for Philadelphia.
10 straight games, yeah.
He's been going a little insane offensively for them, and even defensively as well. But here nor there, can't wait to see how it comes down. Couple more questions for you before I let you go today. I want to know the 2 teams or the 4 teams in total. Who do you have making the Eastern Conference Finals, and who do you have making the Western Conference Finals? You can start with the East.
Man, I think that's Bucks and Celtics. I think that's pretty solidified. I've carried that in. I did that in June, so I'm not going to move off that. They're the top 2 teams roughly in the Eastern Conference. I think if they're fully healthy, those are going to be your 2 best teams. Even though 76ers are going to make an argument, I think they're going to play the Celtics in the second round. And bro, that's going to be a dog fight. That might be a 7-game series if everybody's available, but it could end up being a 6-game series. Just because we have to see Embiid and Harden be able to play in the playoff together. In the West, right now it's so janky, bro, because it looks like it might end up being Warriors, Suns at 5 and 4.
Yeah.
And then if that's the case, they're going to play the Nuggets if the Nuggets get past the first round and the second round.
Yeah.
And so then you're going to have the Suns or Warriors going to beat each other, and then one of them are going to play in the second round versus the Nuggets. And then it's going to be like the Kings and the Clippers and like the Grizzlies on one side with the Mavericks.
Yeah.
So out of that group, man, that's probably going to be like, man, I can see the Nuggets playing. I mean, ideally, shoot, I can see the Nuggets playing maybe the Grizzlies if that's the case. I don't know how Luka, but again, I don't know, man. That's hard, bro. But matter of fact, I'm gonna say the Clippers. If Paul George is healthy, I'm gonna say the Clippers.
Okay, so Clippers, Nuggets, Western Conference Finals, Celtics, Bucks, Eastern Conference Finals. Now we're going to soak. For me, I had the same for the East. As far as the West, I honestly don't know. I don't know how the bracket is going to fall, but it is looking like because either team can fall. The Clippers can lose some games now with Paul George being out for the rest of the season. Kevin Durant, I don't know what's going on with that situation. DeAndre Ayton has been playing the last couple of games, and Phoenix is not pretty much looking too good with just Devin Booker and Chris Paul. So I don't know how the standings are going to fall out. But if I had to ignore the whole standings thing, I think for me it's still going to be the Nuggets. And then just if I had to pick, man, I can't even force myself to pick a Western Conference team right now.
You think of the Mavericks if they lined up versus the Kings and then had to play the Grizzlies? Do you think the Mavericks can make it?
Yeah. So if the Mavericks to me, and credit to the Kings, credit to Mike Brown, credit to Sabonis as well. First full season with De'Aaron Fox. I know he got traded midway. They've been having a great year. One of those guys should be All NBA. I think the Mavericks though, when you have to deal with Luka and Kyrie Irving in a playoff series, and Josh Green, who improved his game this season, not just defensively but offensively as well. And then you never know if Reggie Bullock and Tim Hardaway, and now the emerging to me, I'm a big fan of him regardless. I've been a fan of him, but Jalen Hardy, who's coming onto the scene, look like he can be an offensive weapon off the bench. I think the Mavericks can beat the Grizzlies and the Kings in the playoffs and potentially make the Western Conference Finals again. And I do think they would not be able to stop Jokic, Dwight Powell, Christian Wood, Maxi Kleber. No, that'd be a super disadvantage for them. And the Nuggets, their matchups against Luka have been fairly okay. It's not like Luka just goes out and drops 40 balls on them. So I think it'll be a good series. But I do have the Nuggets, and I'll probably say to your question, the Mavericks making the Western Conference Finals. As far as the finals, though, who do you have winning the series between the Bucks and the Celtics, and why?
Yeah, my dream is Giannis getting out of that. Giannis and Chris with Brooke, with Bobby, with Drew, and then Ingles and Crowder, bro. They just Pat Connington, and bro, they just got a roster, bro. And then don't they got Gordon Dragic now too?
Yeah, Goran Dragic. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Like, yeah, man. They got a roster, bro. So I think the Bucks are gonna win that series, and I think if everything falls right for them, it could be 6. It could be 7. I still think that Tatum Brown and Marcus Smart and them have something to say about it, but I think the Bucks make it out.
Okay. And as far as the West, I know you have the Nuggets. For me, on the opposite side, I've been on with the Celtics making the finals since October, November. I'm gonna stick by that. Unfortunately, the Bucks did take over the number one seed. I don't think that'll make too much of a difference. I think the Bucks had home court advantage last year in their playoff matchup as well. Although Middleton wasn't there, he's a big piece.
Well, no, it was the Celtics had home court.
Celtics
They
at
were
home
number
court.
one
Okay,
seed.
okay.
Yeah.
Celtics at home court. So they won Game 6 in Milwaukee, and then went home and won and closed it out. And credit to Boston for that. That was impressive in that run last year. I think they got better as a team. Adam Brogdon, Derek White is playing better basketball. Robert Williams is my only concern. If he is healthy and he is playing basketball, like we know him to be, I'm still going to side with Boston on this one. Eventually advance. And I do want to give a big shout out to Jaylen Brown. He super upped his game this season, playing alongside Jason Tatum. I think they have a better feel and a better fit together, where most people had question marks around how they will mesh or how they will coexist, not just a particular year, but in the future together. So I think they're silenced those critics and they're doing their thing. So I'm going to go with the Celtics and Nuggets meeting in the finals. And then for you, Nuggets Bucks, I want you to tell me why you think, or who you would pick to win that matchup. I probably know, but why?
Jeez, bro. Look, I picked it in the season. I think that's a 7-game series, man. I think people are going to be really surprised to see as many defensive issues that people think the Nuggets have, man. The Bucks just don't have the foot speed that would give them the same level of issues as some of these other teams like the Damian Lillards or the Steph Currys or the John Morant or even the Aaron Fox. I think Drew and them are incredible, bro. But like the Nuggets, they do well with bigger teams that are a little more oriented in the way that the Bucks are. And so I think the funny thing would be is that it would be Jokic versus Brook, but I think Jokic is going to punish that matchup. And I think, Porter, off ball, Murray, the pick and roll, and then having Gordon and all that. Gordon likes playing against Giannis. They've been playing each other for years.
Yeah.
I think Giannis is going off in that series. Don't get me wrong. He's going to have his way. But it's going to come a lot down to can the Nuggets get key stops when they need to? And then, in terms of containing Giannis, can they hold him to inefficiency at times? because Jokic shot volume goes up in the playoffs, and in that series, he's going to put up 30 balls. And, and Murray can also be somewhere around there. And I think Porter's going to give you from 18 and 23 as well. So I think Chris Middleton, if he's healthy, that's going to make that series crazy because we know his shot making can be incredible at times. So I think it's going to be a 7-game series.
All right. Did you pick a winner in that, though? Did you pick or are you just saying 7-game series?
Yeah, it's a 7-game series, bro. I mean, I'm going to stick with the gun. I'll say the Nuggets, man, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks won either.
Okay, you played it 50-50. I'll accept that. Look, well, all in all, Swiper, I appreciate you for coming on the Facts and Stats. Again, episode 85.
You did not give your prediction.
I didn't. I did try to avoid that. I was hoping you ain't say that. Celtics Nuggets. How many times you got to play this year? I think the Celtics.
Twice.
So the Celtics won that game. And I think you guys got another one coming up, obviously.
No, they played early in the season. Celtics won by 26, and then they played again in January 1st, and the Nuggets won 123 to 111.
Yes. That's actually what happened. Yes, that's true. That second game was in Denver, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Man, playing in Denver is different. But man, I Celtics Nuggets. Again, it all depends on the likes of Rob or Will. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think the way you guys play, especially with the outside potential shot making that you guys have in Jamal and KC, if he's on, and Michael Porter, if he's playing well, and Aaron Gordon finishing around the rim, especially hovering over that dunker spot where him and Jokic like to do. I think it could cause some difficulties for Boston defensively. But then also you got to look at the other side of things. How if JB and JT is in attack mode, especially both of those guys wanted to get downhill, hitting their outside shots, and Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench and being that spark that he could potentially be. Marcus Smart not taking the ill-advised 3-point shots where he has a lot of problems with doing game in and game out. If they shore all that up and clean all that up by the finals, because you got to go through 3 series to get to the finals. So all the mishaps and the miscues and things that they can improve on, it should already be improved by the finals. So I think if they do all that, I think the Celtics should win that series. They have more guys that they can play and rely on, to me. Even if Grant Williams is back into the rotation on a consistent basis as well, who they may need defensively in that series to just sort of kind of mess around with Jokic, get in his head a little bit. I'm not saying he will. I'll lean Celtics in that one. I'll lean Celtics in a 7-game series as well. Celtics or Bucks, no matter what team, no matter however the finals matchup is, I think either way is going to go 7. Especially if the Nuggets and or Warriors potentially come out, or whoever may come out. I think regardless, it'll go 7 for me. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that was that, man. Swipe again. Thank you so much for coming on the Facts and Stats episode 85, man. Do you have any last words for the people?
No, man, make sure you subscribe and you follow your boy Ev, man. The platform you're building is the real deal. And this is just a start, bro. So I'm excited to see what it's going to do at the end of 2023.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And again, people, do not forget, every day on Twitter, I host Twitter Spaces at Facts and Stats _. Everybody has an open mic. Everybody has a chance to come on and talk sports. My motto is speak your mind. I'm going to start putting that on some of the apparel as well. It's already on some of my Facts and Stats apparel. And Facts and Stats apparel is also always available on factsandstats.us, the website. So make sure y'all check all that out. And Swipe again, thank you for coming on, my brother.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro.
All right, so